To Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Kim Lawton, an award-winning marketing consultant, a speaker, and a philanthropist. And we're going to discuss how Kim helps her clients bring their brand to life and connects with their customers. And she joins us from New York. Welcome.
Hello.
Well, it's such a thrill to have you with us today, Kim, because I know that, listen, post-pandemic, we're all trying to find ways to bring our brand to life and connect with customers. And you've had quite a stellar career in being able to do that with lots of Fortune 100 companies. So give us, our viewing and listening audience, a little bit of an idea as to how you decided to make the jump into entrepreneurship.
You got it. It was really by chance. I actually had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur when I was 14 years old, when I asked my dad, or I shouldn't say I asked, I told my dad that he wasn't really running his pizza shop very well, and I had some ideas. And he handed me the keys, and then he said, "You must work with your two older brothers," which was a bit of a shock because we were not the best of friends at that age. We were arch enemies. And he put us all in charge of running this pizza place and said, tell me what you want to do. And he put everyone in a different role. What I uncovered at that young age was specialties, right? I had the ideas of what to put on the menu, how to get people in the door. And my middle brother was the business guy. He was the finance, and the other one was the chef. He had all the ideas on what to do. And so it was a big moment that I didn't know I was learning at the time that all of those things mattered, until fast forward, I was graduated from school, didn't really know what capacity of marketing or advertising I wanted to be in. I was, seeing everything like the Mad Men days. I want to be an advertising agency and work at an ad agency. And I got a job at a Village Voice Media, but advertising there was selling advertising. So I was hustling and going to bars and restaurants and talking about how we could bring their marketing to life in the newspaper, if you can believe it. And I was like, wow, this is not what I thought advertising was. And that led me to meeting, which is an interesting story in of itself as well. My first, what I would call boss and mentor, was the owner or the co-founder of the first agency I started. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, but it was that same mentality of, I realized the skills that he had, he realized the skills that I had from operations and seeing ideas come to life. I knew how to take point A to point B and get it to the what I'd call execution phase. And he knew how to get clients in the door. So we had this like perfect blend of skills. And then I stepped back and I was like, wow, this is what it is. You need others around you that do something that you don't do to make it happen. We worked together at many agencies, and I always say we kept a journal of all the things we would do if we had our own company. Like, you teach your kids to do.
Yeah, exactly. The tips, for sure.
And that just became the genesis of starting the agency. We sat at a kitchen table and said, if we had our own agency, let's do it. And he said, I want to do it. I said, please bring me with you. And we started the first, what I'll call experiential agency that was all about consumer first.
Good for you.
Yeah. And we started with one client, two clients, three clients, and
let it grow.
Let it grow. Yeah. And really, I'll say we were very fortunate to grow like that, where we didn't get too big too fast. We were able to hire at the right times. And that's always scary, because now it's like more mouths to feed.
For sure. Well, I think your dad taught you how to stay in your lane, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. What a great experience, because you've been able to take that from, learning that. And so your very first opportunity, and you probably still do that now.
Staying in your lane and knowing like back to the brother comment, we're now much better friends, but we didn't necessarily have the best relation. Like, it's okay
Right.
to not
Right. Yeah.
necessarily like they have to be your friend, or
Right.
just
Right.
like if you can see the expertise in someone, look beyond that and know that you guys can all bring something to the table. And I think there's so often friends get into business together and then
And
they
it
don't
doesn't
realize,
work.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that's a really wonderful point to bring to light, is that, being in business with someone who's got a different level of expertise, who may even be smarter than you in certain areas,
Absolutely.
right? It's just that you're able to, the synergies are in the way that you work together.
Correct.
And that's what brings it to the next level of success, right?
Right. And then you're almost like you're supporting each other because
Right.
you
Exactly.
you want them in the room with you. You're not trying to compete. And I've seen that with founders too, or partners, I should say, of where they almost have the same skill and then
Right.
it becomes competitive and then the
Yeah.
businesses break up. And I've been so fortunate to have found partners in the businesses that I work with that have like lifted me up into new levels.
Right.
And hopefully that's vice versa as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, no, one of the wonderful things that you mentioned is that you had a mentor early on in your career. And one of the things that you've actually dovetailed into your own business is being a mentor for others. So give us a little few highlights into how you bring mentorship into the fold.
Absolutely. And I talk a lot with especially our intern team when they come in, of the importance of mentors, and that mentors
Mhm.
aren't going to just tell you what to do. And there's three types that you should always look for or have in your corner. And I call it the 3 C's. It's a coach, a counselor, and the cheerleader. And knowing the value of each of those, because some days you just need a cheerleader. You need to be like, I had a bad day. I don't know what's going on. I need someone to just rally around me and just not give me advice.
Yeah, for sure. For
Then the
sure.
counselor is more like what I would say your guidance counselor, of like experience shares. And so someone that can has walked in the shoes maybe, or had similar experiences in whether it's life or business, or just even like what I say is like the financial side, right? Like, am I looking
Mhm.
at this? Is this the normal thing? But instead of just saying yes, it's more like when our company did that, or when my like,
Right.
and
Right.
really showing how they may have approached it. So not necessarily again just saying here's the path to go. And
Right.
then the coach is the one that pushes you out of your comfort zone, just like a sports coach, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
for
knows
sure.
knows you're capable, but maybe you're not there yet, and can just really. And so if you can put those, like what I'll call monikers, in your head of like, oh, this person really pushes me, I want to ask them to be a mentor. And I see that often when people hear mentor, they're almost like, oh, well, I really admire this person, or they're my hero. And it's like, no, you need to look for mentors that are actually going to give you valuable information to
Yeah,
help you,
practical, right?
and know the questions to ask and know how to tap into them. Also, so many people are willing to give their time and their energy, and that's what's been so fulfilling. Just close on your question about the Enthuse Foundation and the community of entrepreneurs we've built. In reality, we're the platform. They're all helping each other, and it's
Right.
so fulfilling to see that magic happen, where someone will jump on a call and say, I'm struggling to get distribution at this retail store because it's costing me so much and my numbers. And someone else will answer, like, be like, oh, this is what I did. This is how I got around that. This is the way that I looked at the business in that stage when I was there. And you see it, and then someone else will jump in with an experience share. And
Yeah.
it's so incredible. And that value, and what I'm calling mentorship, is all about peer-to-peer mentorship.
Yeah, it's almost symbiotic, right? So, I know something, you know something, and then we share information together, and then we both learn something in the end, right? That's
Right.
beneficial to both of us. So, I
Right.
mean, I love that model where you have a symbiotic relationship. It's not top down, it's also bottom up. And I love your reference to peer, because that's like side to side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which really makes it a wonderful circle.
And it kind of takes the pressure off too, where
Right.
sometimes we feel we have to have all the answers and say, well, here's what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and
What's going wrong? I can't figure it out.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then the foundation also, in addition to mentorship, we were really wanting to use our voice as a marketing agency to get the message out there of how small the capital is out there for women-owned businesses. It's
Mhm.
2% and it hasn't grown. We've been watching it for the 7 years we've been running the foundation. And even if it gets to 3%, that's still so tiny, and it
Right.
just kind of teeters between 2 and 3% of VC funding. And not every entrepreneur needs VC funding, but what we've learned is they're even afraid to ask,
Ask. Yeah.
right? To go
So
and
true.
afraid to show up. And so we put a lot of effort not only in the awareness of how small the investment is, it's more so about how to give the tools and confidence to
Yeah.
show up and ask, even if it's a bank, like showing your business plan, knowing that,
Mhm.
because if you lack confidence, that
You'll never get the money.
right.
Yeah.
And even just the business idea itself. So
Right.
that's been really a big, what I'll say, focus point for us as well. So community of mentors, how to show up and really ask for the money, and then in addition to that, the awareness side of using our
Sure.
marketing voice for good.
Yeah, and execute the plan, right?
Yes.
Because that's the really you go in with a business plan, which is only one part of it, and then you've got do the presentation. We say when you get a little bit more comfortable and you've got your points locked and loaded that you want to make. But
Yeah.
then once you've been successful and you've got the money, then you have to execute all these wonderful ideas. And I'm sure that's where you come in and helping them with the marketing skills to be able to make that connection.
Yes.
So, in today's day and age, I think where everyone is overwhelmed, right? We're in the scrolling kind of marketing phase. I always say when I started my first business, believe it or not, it was traditional marketing, newspaper,
Yep.
magazine, radio, and TV. That was it. And
That's
you know what? And it was so expensive that when you first hit the pavement, you're like, I don't have any money to do that. I've got it. What are my options? But
right.
now we're seeing things come full circle because there's so many options with social media. So, is there a tip that you can give to someone who's listening to our conversation, who may be an entrepreneur, or maybe they're an enterprise leader, and they're looking for new ways to make connections with customers?
Mhm.
How do they do that with all of these platforms that are now available?
I would say those, in addition to all the platforms, now there's artificial intelligence, there's research, there's so much
Yeah,
than
to
just
consider.
to consider and to put in front of consumers. It's going to be simple, and but it's like, talk to your best customers. I think often we forget that there's a human actually making the purchase, and we get so, and I do it too, we get wrapped up in a data report, we get wrapped up in the analysis, or the what's happening. You look in your Google Analytics and you're seeing all these things, but it's like there is a person behind there that's actually putting their credit card down or putting the dollar across the cash register. And I find it fascinating how many brands do not do that. They do not get in front of their customers and say, why are you buying 5 products a month? What is so special about this brand? And if you can do that, even just on simple levels through CRM, or following up, it's not just giving another coupon to buy another project. It's
Right.
literally like, I want to hear from you. I
Make
want
a connection, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what that came from? That came from that experiential lens. I could see our when we would design a creative concept of what it would look like, and then you would see it come to life, and you would see the consumer actually interacting with it. It was magic, because you could see what you designed was actually working and some not so working, but
Yeah.
you knew what was changing. Like, you're like, wait, people are just passing by us and they're not stopping. Like, what's that?
Why?
What's
Yeah.
And then you start talking to people, and I do think, especially today in our digitally native consumers, if you talk to the people, and I've seen it even with my daughter, like she'll scroll and she'll like, I'm buying this makeup because this person's a celebrity and then she gets it and it's terrible products and then she's like, and never used it. And I said, well, and she goes, yeah, because I didn't like it or this, or it didn't go on creamy, whatever her reasons.
Right. Right.
But like we buy things because we're conditioned to feel like it's a good product, and it didn't work for her. Her feedback to that
Would be beneficial.
right.
Yeah.
And she was willing to give it.
Sure. Just no opportunity.
Right.
Remember, I'll use the phrase the old days. You remember when in the days gone by when we used to do focus groups, right?
Yes.
We would get a bunch of consumers in the room and there would be a facilitator and we would literally talk about the product or service.
Yes.
So do you think that the reason why business owners don't do that is because they're afraid to hear what the customer might say and then they won't know how to handle the objection?
Absolutely. And I've seen that even with some clients where we will come in and share an observation of this is how your brand is really showing up with people, like with real people that are, whether they're consuming a rum in a bar or restaurant or coffee at a cafe. And because it might not be the vision they have for their brand, they almost don't want to hear it.
Right.
And it's not that they don't agree with it. It's more like, but created this and I need it to be this. And it's like,
yeah, my vision is not marrying with with reality, right?
but if you have really savvy brand managers or CMOs that really want to know what's going on and they get out there and they walk the store. I was walking grocery stores this week and seeing not only customers engaging with the brands, but seeing the managers of the store, of what
Right.
they cared about, where they were spending their time and like how they were interacting and what they cared about, what their store looked like. That's important too, because if your brand is displayed at an account, or whether it's Sephora makeup, or you need to make sure you're walking those stores and seeing what your brand looks like, because that could be a problem too.
So give us an example, and I love how we're talking about the physicality of life because we've all spent a lot of time staying away from the bricks and mortar locations, and we all know that everybody wants to engage. We all want to talk to people. We all want to get out there and meet the salesperson or talk to the distribution manager or whoever the case may be.
Right.
If you've got a digital brand, so you're doing everything online, because there's a whole new frontier of people that don't actually physically engage with the client because they're doing business online. So would like a focus group, or how do they connect with the consumer who's maybe even in another country and they're shipping their product, because that's become so easy to do now. Is there a tip that you can give for those folks who have built a digital brand? How do they connect with the consumer?
Absolutely. There's ways of, there's reviews, right? You could review a product. I think there's also ways, just like we're having this conversation, we're not in the same room. You can get those consumers on a Zoom or on a virtual call. And I've seen some brands do that very successfully that are all DTC brands. They'll say, would you like to be part of a panel of a new innovation? I love this idea when brands are coming out with something new, to almost invite their best customers to say, hey, I want to give you a sneak peek before this gets to the market. And even if it's already designed and developed and put, but giving them that, what I'd say, early access, giving them the opportunity to join others that are using that product, or what I'd call brand fans, they're your best opportunity to say, like, I was part of the launch of that product.
Right. And what wonderful then advertisers for you, because they're going to tell their friends and family that they were part of this amazing experience.
Right. And I'm not saying don't invest in influencers that can have this massive reach. It's really just how you really support and push the closest to the customer mentality, because that small group of consumers is probably 80% of your business.
So true. That's so true. Now for Kim, I mean, you've been in business a long time. You have a lot of experience. You've helped a lot of people push the envelope and reach their own level of success. I'm going to ask a personal question to you and your own vision for the future. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Because I mean, I would venture to guess that both of us have similar backgrounds. And you reach an age and stage in life and you go, okay, so yes, you've ticked off all the boxes of the things that you wanted to do. What's next for Kim?
What's next for me is really putting more time into the foundation. If you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said, I'm going to Napa, I'm going to work on a
Right.
winery, and I'm
Right.
going to be enjoying the beautiful scenery.
Right.
Not only do I know I can do more for the community, it's so fulfilling, and to see that small things can go such a long way.
Yeah.
And in 3 years, I would love to be board, being able to go out there and fundraise. The agency is supporting the foundation right now, so having that vision of this could be so much bigger. I know that I could do more for
And
that.
collaborating with other business, women in business.
Businesses.
Yeah.
We had one of our first community members actually sell their business to a
Fantastic.
and now she's a consultant, and she's
Oh, how fantastic.
so it's just this like regeneration in this cycle that is so rewarding. But also, I think for me personally, to your question, it is, I know we can do so much more. And so focusing time and effort there is going to be the big thing that I see myself doing in 3 years.
Well, I really want to thank you for spending some time with us today, Kim, because, not only have you given our viewing and listening audience some great tips on how to elevate their brand and connect with the consumer, but you've really given people some things to think about in terms of your 3 C's for mentorship, which I absolutely love. So I'd really like to thank you for spending some time with us and sharing your expertise.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was lovely.
And then to your viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduce you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Kim's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship Keeping It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.
Everything is not enough. Feeling out by the ocean.